For me, actually, this was a good opportunity, this project presented a good opportunity to see the ways in which I can tie, or other ways in which I can tie my journalistic background with my artistic background. So while, you know, as a journalist, you could be very used to, we need a story about XYZ by such and such a date. Like this is the scope you're given a scope. And, you know, I did have some tussles where I'd maybe go to a place and the editor wants a story, but I'm seeing that the story is something else. And those are some tussles there that luckily, when you have an artistic practice, it doesn't necessarily translate in the same way. So there was enough space for me to express the stories that I wanted to express and in the way in which I wanted to. Hi, my name is Bille McTernan. I live in Accra and London and work between the two. I have a writing practice and I see my art practice as an extension of my writing practice. So while I write with paper, pencils, pens, I also write with needles and thread on fabric. So that's a sort of textile continuation of the writing practice. I've had the writing practice for 10 to 15 years, the textile element of my writing practice for the last 4 to 5 years. I'm interested in expanding the possibilities of writing and language and reading, how we read with our bodies, beyond how we read with our eyes in a book, how we can also think about different ways of reading and writing. And so that underpins much of the work I do. Even when I'm writing textual information or textual stories, I'm thinking about alternative ways to write those stories. With the textile practice, likewise, I'm making the text almost illegible so that we're not quite able to read the text in the way we would normally read in a book on a paper. The semantic information is kind of undone, and so we have to now face a new understanding of what it might mean to read again. Sometimes collaboratively in space, if it's in an exhibition, there are other people around, how do we read a work in that sense? And also individually, you know, do we get up close? Do we try to glean what information we can? And then of course, how do I write? I worked as a journalist for a long time, and in that time I visited Old Fadama several years ago at a time when there were demolitions, and so people were having to go back home to where they had come from, you know, before coming to that area. A lot of people had come from the north, some people even further outside of the country, and so when I saw what the Atlas of Uncertainty was presenting with, you know, including this neighbourhood, I thought it was a good opportunity to kind of go back to that neighbourhood and continue a conversation of sorts with regards to migration and the movement of people in that space. The work includes stories from people from Old Fadama, their hopes and dreams, kind of responding to what the data was presenting, people that wanted to move to different places and such. So, you know, we had a list of questions for people from the area or living in the area about their hopes, where they would like to go, should they want to go, where they would like to go, their hopes that they had coming to the place. These are the stories that populate the sheets that you'll see in the work. So rather than interpret the data precisely, I used the the inspiration, the migration, the stories of migration to sort of inform my decision as to how to present my work. I don't think with this or any other project I necessarily have something prescriptive that I would want to specifically communicate. I mean, there are thoughts and ideas that should and hopefully do come across. There's sound element that's part of the work as well. So as people read the work, move around the work, they should also be hearing the voices, the sounds of Old Fadama. And I hope that those two in connection with each other bring about a feeling of the space, maybe feeling closer to the stories, to the people, through the sound and through the material on the work as well. I think it's worthwhile to have various ways of producing knowledge and accessing knowledge in such a project. Some people tend towards maybe the scientific and data facts, and some people would tend to the artistic. And in all of that, I think there's more information to be understood by sort of combining these different things together. So I worked with a researcher who lives there and who knows the neighbourhood well, and he helped me with some of the stories that you'll find on the sheets. At one point, he was robbed, and all the audio, everything that he had, spent a day or two gathering was completely gone. His phone was gone, his laptop was gone, from one of the interviewees, actually, or suspected to be one of the interviewees. So, so these are some of the challenges. I mean, it presented more of a challenge for him, obviously. He lost what is, the best part of his livelihood. Or helps him get the best part of his livelihood. But you have to remember that when entering certain neighbourhoods, people, at least in this place, people are trying to get by, and there is a way to be considerate of that in your conversation, in your discussion, in trying to know their stories. That's not to say that he wasn't. It's just more. That's more of a consideration, and the other one was a challenge. Yeah, I think that was maybe one of the main ones. And then because it's transitory, the people that you've interviewed, you may never see them again. So you have to now go again and start again and try to get familiar with another set of people to continue the project. So challenges, I mean, you can hear some really tough stories from people, and as a person with emotions and feelings, that's something you have to be able to process and deal with, and this can be a challenge. Additionally, another challenge for me is trying to maintain a creative practice while being a parent, and being a parent that is between two places as well, maintaining my conceptual practice no matter where I am, whilst adhering to the demands of a small child can be challenging. I sew on organdie, which is quite a delicate material. One thing you have to be careful with, or one thing I have to be careful with this type of material, is that it's quite fine and delicate, and with large needles and lots of thread, they can easily pull. So one challenge is to make sure you are quite careful when threading through, so as to not leave gaping holes in the middle of your sheet or your canvas. What this project has shown me has been more actually on a material basis. The kind of material I'm interested in exploring, or possibilities of material as my practice continues. I'm interested in how material representation can further play a part in my work. So I think this is something that's been quite a nice reveal during this project.